I remember being 9 years old, sitting downstairs in my grandfather's basement with my cousin. I was like, "Hey, bro, what you playing?" He says he was playing Wizard101 on our grandfather's old computer, and he's like, "Want to try?" Sure. I built a character. I played Unicorn Way, and I started my adventure there with my cousin. My name is Demon Knight, aka in this game, join StrongDreamer, the person who streams a lot with this character alone. And I'm gonna be talking about every single world and how I grew up with it. Not just the main worlds alone, but side worlds and everything else. So we're gonna do the Arc 1 first, then the side worlds, then Arc 2, 3, and 4. So everything from now until Novus, before Wildroo comes out, explaining how my... Well, it's not 15 years for me yet. It's only been 14. But overall, I want to share my 15 years of gratitude for Wizard101. And KingsIsle, of course, for making this game. So let's begin with Wizard City. Wizard City. Being known for, well, the first area. A world where you can just enjoy and have fun. And you can talk to a lot of people around here because, well, it's a free area. But that's not the only thing you can do here. There's the shopping district right over there, along with Bazaar, Pet Pavilion, Unicorn Way, and PvP duels. Golem Court, along with some potion area mini games. Wizard101 is good for the first world alone. And when I first experienced these roads, I'm not gonna lie to you, I felt joy trying to do these quests. I think what's also cool at the start too is trying to find all of the little dwarves that Prospector Zeke was looking for. I spent hours and hours trying to look for them. And not gonna lie, there was at one point I was like, dude, there's for certain a dwarf over here, because I was like, there was a hidden spot over here. No, and I looked over there, I was like, wow, it was over there somewhere. And then also talking to Sabrina for the first time was also cool, because she also gave out some shield spells that, you know, you would expect a different school or a professor to give to you. Oh, sorry, not dwarves, smiths. I'm sorry. I know I said dwarves, but it's smiths. Also, let's open this present. Oh, a confetti cannon, nice. But yeah, so Wizard City, I say it was greatest. It was the greatest experience of my lifetime, because not only did I experience every single boss battle between Trine Avenue, Firecat Alley, Cyclops Lane, and Colossus Boulevard, but experiencing what a dungeon was like in Nightside. And then, well, obviously as time went on, there was also other dungeons they added, like Waterworks, and they added Aquila, technically, and then the Drains, but we won't talk about the Drains this episode, because technically, it's still connected to Wizard City, and it's only just all bosses and everything else, but let's move on to my next area, Krokotopia. Krokotopia, the Big Pyramid, the Balance School, and then the Spirit of Storms over there. This place was everything you had known for. Not gonna lie, there was a lot of things interesting here that you couldn't get in Wizard City. For one, you get this hidden area right over here. Number two, there was a lot of back and forth quests. So you'll be doing this a lot in this world, but I loved it here. Now, obviously, there was two things they added, which is the little secret area for the boat up there, and then the 4 dungeons, which is all the way up there for upper and lower zigzag. But like I said, for this episode, I won't be talking about that alone, because that won't really be important to this story as much compared to what other things come along. Krokotopia was also a great place for me to learn different schools between Fire, which is the middle, Ice, which is to the right, and Storm, which is to the left. I enjoyed basically going through all that, learning every single thing, and trying to stop Malasters like that as well. But of course, Krokopatra just does what she wants and basically helps Malaster in that case. But that's not the only thing I want to talk about. I also want to talk about some of the greatest things they have. Like, you can actually buy better stuff around here, like decks, amulets, rings, robes. Like, this was a great upgrade to what was from Wizard City. Now, obviously, it wasn't like spectacular like the Bazaar, but it still had some great things, and we got another present for us. Thank you very much. So yeah, and then there was also the awesome library that they added one of the greatest things of all time, which I'll show you real quickly. It was the little secret dungeon for the Raw. But yeah, Zanny was also cool to be around as well. Now I remember doing one of these dungeons when I was younger. I was like, dang. Now they added two of them, which I don't remember which one was which, but yeah. Yeah, this one was the Raw. This one was... I never done Sepati, but... Yeah, when I saw the Raw dungeon, I was so fathomed by it. But yeah, Krokotopia was so cool. I actually enjoyed it when I first came here. Now, besides the back and forth, obviously, I mean, the greatest thing I liked about it was trying to duel the Minotaur, and then I think doing the Grand Arena was actually kind of cool, not gonna lie. But, enough about Krokotopia. It's time to go to the third world, Marleybone. Marleybone. One of the greatest worlds out there, in my opinion. Home of Sherlock Bones and Watson. Now, there was a lot of things they added, obviously, from the time we've been here. Like the Stallimon's Quarters dungeon. Quartermain's dungeon, I'm sorry. And then they also got rid of one of the greatest things they ever added, which in my opinion was great to know for the story, but this tower used to be a dungeon for learning how cheats work. It was the hardest dungeon. Oh, wait, they still have it? It still exists to this day? I want to see if people still do it. No. So they brought it back, yeah. Spiral Geography Social Society Archives. Yeah, this was a hard dungeon. If anyone does this, you know what? Points to you. Because that's one of the toughest dungeons before you get to Celestia, before they made it a side, not a main. And trust me, as someone who did this, it was hell. Because that was a requirement before you get to Celestia. Now, along the way, there was a new guy named the Professor who did the box events. And he had to go back in time to fix some things that the Maelstrom did. But, also, let's talk about the main story itself. You had worked with Sherlock Bones to stop Moriarty, or the cats, the O'Hares. Along the way, you would struggle with finding where they are. Fighting Popsle sorry. You would fight the O'Larrys, and find out that they were working with Moriarty and Malistaire. Then you would go try and stop Moriarty, too late. Then you gotta fight Jack East. And then you go to the Big Ben, which is all the way at the top of that tower, to fight Moriarty. I love that. The only thing I didn't like was the left and right the clockwork towers on the left and right side being separate areas, which is stupid and shouldn't have been paid with crowns. But enough about that. They also added Buckingham Palace, which I think was cool, in my opinion. But yeah, I also like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type style. But other than that, I loved it. Marleybone was probably one of my favorite areas of all time. You know, for what it was in London, basically made into this area with dogs and cats, and yeah, I enjoyed it. Anyways, next area, another amazing world that I loved the most, Mooshu. Now, before the added Kathmandu, this world was perfect for what it was. There is nothing that needed to be added. This world was amazing for what it was. You had to go to 2 or 3 separate areas and then fight a dungeon afterwards to fight an Oni. You had to do 2 separate battles, which was amazing in my opinion, because that put your skills to the test. And this area is so perfect. I mean, I love the peacefulness, the monks, and you know, the only thing they also added besides Kathmandu was the wooden key for Catch of the Day. Mooshu, it's just so nice and peaceful. There's really nothing you can say about this, because it was towards the end of Arc 1 that you're just like, oh man, I love it. It gives you that heartbeat of, yeah, I really, really love this area. Everything you do here, it was for a reason. You didn't feel slow-paced or fast-paced. It was just right. You know, this is probably my favorite area in Arc 1, in all honesty. That's not obviously Wizard City, but yeah. Mooshu's just amazing. And finally, for Arc 1, we got Dragonspyre. This was the world where you put everything you knew to the test. Everything you had was for a reason. You had to stop Malastare from attacking the Fire Titan, from reviving Sylvia. It was a tough ride. I mean, you went to the what was it? The Atheum. You went to the Necropolis. You also went to the Dragonspyre Academy. You went everywhere to stop Malastare and his little goons and armies. You did everything you could. You put yourself to the test. You were strong. Now, obviously nowadays, people only come here for well, used to come here for Lore Master and try to get her spells. Nowadays, no one's really here anymore because everything requires a golden skeleton key. But when you think about it, though, you were put to the test, and you had a reason behind it. It was an epic battle towards the end. Everything you had up to level 50. To fight Malastare at 10,000 health with 1,000 health minions. It was for all or nothing at the end. This was the epic conclusion of Arc 1. You had to put everything you had to the test, and it was fantastic of Arc 1. We had the skills to complete this. Now, before we go to Arc 2, obviously, guys, we need to go back a little bit. Back to, like, the side areas. And to begin with the first side area, Grizzleheim. A lot of people hated this area, and I don't blame them for it. Because you really didn't get a lot of XP in this area. But the design was so nice, though. And plus, I'm a huge nerd for Norse mythology, so when they added Boulder Golden Paws into it, you knew that was a Norse mythology reference. Now, obviously, you may not get it from that, but I'll tell you in the next part why it's more or less Norse mythology. Anyways, everything was so fantastic about this area, too. Not gonna lie, besides the XP, obviously the XP grinding you couldn't get from here, but you just did everything you could to stop the Ravens from causing everlasting or Everwinter. It was and some of the bosses were actually hard in this one, depending on what level you were. If you went to the first area, level 20, yeah, you got 2,000 health boss you had to fight by yourself sometimes, or with the group. Level 25, you had to go back over to the left side, fight a 3,000 boss. 35, you had to come back, or what? No, 30 or 35. No, 30. You went over here, and I think you defeated like a 4,000 boss. And at level 40, you went to Ravenscar, and you had to fight every single boss you ever fought. So that was a tough ride, because that was amazing for how it built up. Obviously, story-wise, it was a little lacking because, well, you had to come back every other level. But the build-up for it was actually interesting than we thought it would be. I felt more like it was more of a slow pace, though, than it was with like how Mooshu was. But that doesn't. But its counterpart actually pulled it off better than what it did with Grizzleheim. Wintertusk. Now, I'm going to count this a little bit different from how it was in Grizzleheim, but this is also where we first meet Grandmother Raven. One of the primordials of the area, along with Bartleby. Now, this is also the first area, too, where you actually fight minions on the first area. Along the way, you'll find some urns down, or find some birds down here. Ravens that are named Erd, Scald, and Verdani. Those are basically the three birds that can tell the future, past, and present. And know what you're saying and what you'll do. It's very much so a Norse mythology story. Helga, yeah, you know, some of the names also are Austriland, Sundryland, Vestriland, Nordrild, and then you also try and stop a ice titan from waking up and causing the everlasting winter. So, in other words, Ymir or Mimir in that case. Most likely Ymir, but yeah, that was like I said, I'm a huge Norse geek, and I love the fact that they pulled this off with great success. And plus, you could also come here right as you finish up Ravenscar. From level 40 to like level 50, I got up to like 54 when I finished this area. So that was fantastic, and I also love coming back here every single time, just gazing at the fact that the design was perfect for Grandmother Raven, fighting these minions that were not so hard, but not too easy either. The bosses were a little bit difficult. I mean, this was golden. This was the golden side area. But now we get to the part where it gets a little bit harder to say Whisker or not. Wysteria. I mean, it's like a counterfeit Wizard City. And it's supposed to be much better than it. You don't learn anything here, that's the sad part. But it's supposed to be like a tournament to get the prize from it. Which is the trophy, basically. The Wisteria Cup. Along the way, you can find out what schools there are. School of Ember, school, I think, of Tempest. Yep. And so on and so forth. So it's a different version of schools and how they learn. My only real issue is that there's only 3 areas overall. The main area, Pegasus Palace, and Tanglewood Way. Technically, Tournament Hall is a different area, but not entirely. That's only when you fight the 5 technically bosses. But yeah, it was interesting. You also had to fight one of the toughest bosses when you're at level 25. Chester Doors, who was possessed by the evil monster from Tanglewood Way. Because he had like an evil voodoo of it. Also, the headmistress, Beldora Crisp, she was kind of a pain in the ass to deal with, not gonna lie. But also, you had to come back here at level 60 to do Tower Hierophant, and as it mentioned in the name, it was hell. So, Tower Hierophant was like one of the toughest, and it still is one of the toughest dungeons in existence. That's why if I pray for anyone to help out those level 60s with that one specific tower. And Waterworks too. Zigzags, not so much, but yeah, Tower Hierophant is still one of the toughest dungeons in existence. I had to do it 7 times, I would personally know. But yeah, Wysteria was an okay dungeon, an okay area, excuse me, sorry. Moving on. Aquila. This was one of the weirdest things they added. They added basically Greek mythology into Wizard101. I love it. Because, like I said, I'm a mythology nerd, and I despise it at the same time because you had to come back here 3 times. One at level 30 because you had to fight Zeus Skyfather. The next time was 70 for fighting Poseidon. At level 90, you had to not only fight Hades, but Kronos, the Gladiator, and the Tentacles, Sea Tentacle, Squid Tentacle. Yeah, Sea Squid Tentacle. Those were the 3 times you had to come back here for it. I actually had a friend one time mentioning he was at level 85 and they had a request to come here. I was like, that's under leveled. You shouldn't be able to do that, but whatever. I would just take it as is, and he did. So, Aquila, I love it personally because I enjoy the dungeons and trying to get the good gear. But there's one dungeon that surpasses all of it. That's right. I was talking about Castle Darkmoor. One of the deadliest places to be at. Level 100, you're ready to go in there, you're ready to fight, you're ready to get your Darkmoor spell, unless you're a fire school. I feel sorry for you then. This was amazing experience. I remember originally 2014, nearly 10 years ago, you had to fight 25,000 health bosses. You had to do this either alone or with friends. I remember trying solo the third area, Graveyard, alone. I killed the Avengi, no problem. Shane Von Shane was a little bit, but I got used to it. And then I fought Malistaire, 1v1. I thought I had him. I was so close. I felt the glory of it until I realized he had a second phase. 99,000 health. It was so bizarre. I didn't know about the cheat. I didn't think about the cheat. I was so sad because at that time I was limited time back then. And I had to do it a different time, but that's not the point. As you can tell, I succeeded because I had the rope for it. But that's something I just grew up remembering. That was one of the toughest battles I've ever had. And I remember doing this mostly on my own. I fought it. I got Globot Squall, the original version. I was just having a blast with it. It was fun. It was really, really fun. I can't believe it's been almost 10 years, and still to this day, people still do it. Now, obviously, in this area I'm at, no one's on, but every time you try to join a graveyard dungeon, there's always guaranteed someone there. Not here, but in Team Up. There's always a team for that, no matter what. So, therefore, Castle Darkmoor is one of the best side dungeons and side areas you'll ever be at. Because it gives you one of the best gears for, well, not only the best gears for level 100, but it also gives you the best experience in your life. Yeah. Celestia. This is what we got the Spiral Key for. Not gonna lie, at first, Survey Camp and the Grotto and Floating Land was okay. But and Storm Riven was fine. But anything after that, including Science Center and Crustacean Empire, was just a nightmare for this area. I despised it. There was so much back and forth in those two areas. Not so much with those. Oh, by the way, I always forget the one area here. I forgot what they called it. This one right here. District of the Stars. This is also the first way to experience what's like. Because not only were you fighting sharks, but you also got the astral spells as well. From Sun, Moon, and Star. You're able to power up your spells. You could use more accuracy. You could transform to a different creature. Or you could have also amplified or put different spells on you. Making yourself stronger defense or stronger attack. That was a cool experience out of this. And then obviously if you talk to this dude right here, Ogden Peak, he also gives you 3 additional training points. That's amazing. So overall, Celestia is an okay area, but like I said in my ranking video, it wasn't something memorable because the only thing it was an introduction to a new character, Morgan. But that was really it. You really didn't know much about her. You just know she was the bad guy. And you had no knowledge about her. Except for, oh, she returned, she's the bad guy. Yeah, but moving on to the next world. Zafaria. Home to nature itself, basically. Now, I'm gonna be real. The Munda and Savannah, probably the worst areas in existence. Because there was so much you had to do in that. It was kind of bland. But afterwards, when you went to Stone Town, Waterfront, and Drum Jungle, and then Elephant Graveyard, it was a blast. I actually enjoyed that. It was great because you had to fight zebras, lions, and gorillas, because it felt different. But not only that, but you knew more about in depth of Morganth herself, and how she's actually becoming evil. Apparently in this world, she had her deck here, and you also try to save the lost students from Morganth's evil clutch minions. And along the way, you had to fight bosses that cheat more, which became a regular thing at this point. But yeah, but then there was another common thing most people did too, Mirror Lake, for mega pet snacks. Now you don't see it now, like I said, because people are not on the server. When you do team up though, there's guaranteed people do it. But yes, it was an interesting way, interesting travel. It was fun, besides these two areas. And also some of the bosses were actually memorable, like Balak, the one that you had to spam hit. That was also the scary part about it, or else you got Rod. But yes, overall, Zafaria was actually an okay place. Moving on to the next world, Avalon, Avalon, Avalon. Nothing needs to be said about this because it was the absolute masterpiece of the world. You had Jabberwock, you had Lave the Lake, you had King Artorias, you had Sir Mallory, you had everything top notch. Like, you feel like feels like it's long, but it's long with the good glory of actually just keep going, feeling like a knight in shining armor. This was the best world ever. Like and someone who loves the story of Camelot, it was mind-breezing, like mind-blowing, just how it was, like how they made this so much better. The king has fallen, the queen abandoned her role as a queen. You had to save Avalon, and you did. It was such an amazing journey. You know, and then the only thing they actually added in Avalon, besides one boss fight, you could have gotten the King Artorias spell once you went to Khrysalis, which we'll talk about Khrysalis here shortly. But yeah, just Avalon's just it was one of the greatest worlds, and many people can agree with this. When I first came here, I was just mind blown. I just explored, I just ran the whole thing. Now, there was a lot of bosses that aren't memorable, obviously, but wow, just how long it's been since I've been in Avalon. I said it before, I will miss Avalon. And I do. I really, really do. How much I loved Avalon. So much. And the journey with it each time. And here is when things started to go downhill. Now, obviously, I know I said before Azteca was one of the worst worlds, and many people can agree with it, but let's try to look at some positivity for it. For one, you had something different. An ancient dinosaur past life that... Oh, hold on. Nothing important. You had an ancient dinosaur past life that just relives the memory of ancient stories and prophecies and such. Along the way, you're trying to find dinosaurs in Sinnoh that are basically zombie-like. You could have fought birds that are gone crazy, you know, and witches too. And also, you learn more in depth that Morganth actually wants the Song of Creation, and to do that, she needs the ancient dinosaurs that created it. So by doing this, she collects everything from every single pyramid of the moon, and causes problems. For example, in the first tower, all at the end, there was like a giant crocodile thing that you had to fight. In Pitch Black Lake, you had to fight Neza the Poet, who was a ghost. And lastly, you had to fight Hunden, who was possessed and actually was serving the evil Morganth and her dark servant, which, to be revealed, Malster the Undying, which also returned in Castle Darkmoor, but he finally rested in peace. So Morganth has done some evil things to cause Malster to return. Not only that, but also to become a true final boss in Castle Darkmoor. So Azteca brought some good things from it, but a lot of things that were set back was a lot of back and forth, a lot of failed defeating collects, and so many bosses. Like, there was a ridiculous amount of bosses that were just unbelievably unnecessary. And it felt like it took days and days and days just to try and finish this world. And it didn't feel like an accomplishment. It just felt like you had to get out of there. So, well, we know this is the worst world there is. Let's move on to a better world, in my opinion. When we look at Khrysalis, we think, wow, it's just the same thing as Azteca. Lots of huge quests, lots of bosses, yada yada. But I can say a little bit different about it. It feels like you're just trying to rebuild a home made for the Fifth Column or the Rebellions to have peace again instead of being under the Umbra Legion, also known as Morganth's Legion. It felt like you actually wanted to try to rebuild the colony again. And so you succeeded. You saved Divum, your first right-hand man, who helped you along the journey. You also had Zarazina, who also was a mantis, to join you. You also fought a lot of monsters along the way, spiders, and you also learned the shadow spells from here. You also learned the power of shadow along your journey. And also, you also meet one of the greatest characters, both Taylor and Old Cobb. Now, you didn't know who Old Cobb was, and why people were so afraid of him, because they didn't mention it until the end, where he had multiple eyes. When you realize what he has done, and says Mary make war with his children, and saw he has more power of shadow than ever, you knew that he was something dangerous to deal with. So Khrysalis has one of the best stories ever. They had the toughest bosses like Cavalier the Hunter, Ghost Dog, Baylor, and then some of the other, like Umbra, and then the other two, but I don't remember their names because they weren't that important. But overall, this was an amazing journey and a great ending for Arc 2, no matter what people say. Here was the start for Arc 3, Polaris. Now, honestly, I think this is where KingsIsle took a little dip in the downside, but it had some good memories. I mean, you fought against the Walrus, who was causing issues, and bringing in terrible fish imported, and just overall, and you had to fight Rasputin, aka the Rat, along the way. Along the way, also, you have friends like Ivan and Mallory, who you meet for the first time. And you also meet Baba Yaga, which was one of the toughest bosses out there, besides the Rat. So overall, this world only had 2 tough bosses. And it didn't feel like a great story behind it. They tried something new. This was Ambrose's original homeworld. But I actually loved one character, and that was Ivan. Ivan was an amazing character. And hopefully one day we get to see more Ivan action or have him as a spell, like Divum. Please, KingsIsle, I'm actually begging you. We also don't see the captain. We used to see the captain, but he's not here anymore. Pretty sad, honestly. Because he was from Pirate 101. But, moving on to the next world. Technically a world, but the Arcanum. It's like an enhanced Ravenwood. We also get your own apartment over here as well, free potion refills, and you get some. If you're also a Myth student, you also get a free spell Gobbler, which is a 3 pips spell. But hey, free spells every day. But yes, like I said, you also get a free apartment to your own, and just want to come back home here. You can relax, just come out here and just go to wherever you need to go. I feel like Arcanum actually became an interesting story after we dealt with Polaris, because you felt more and more part of the team, and you grew to learn what it was like to be the Cabal or the Scholars, the Arcanum. And, well, obviously there was more unraveling truths that they had behind it. We'll explain more along the way as we go to different worlds. Like this, for example, where it was ripped and everything, and what this was, we'll talk about it more later. Mirage. Now, obviously this wasn't everyone's favorite place, but there were some fans that loved it. This was also the first world to have side quests only be gold, no XP. So they really forced you to do main quests along the way. You also get journeyed by a side hero just like Ozzy and E-Star. I prefer Ozzy because E-Star was just annoying. It kind of screwed up almost everything along the way. But turns out she was just trying to be a traitor, so she became a senior Jin. But obviously it was a backstab because Grandfather Spider, because we didn't really mention who that was. The old cop was Grandfather Spider, and he's a primordial that wants his heart back. So in Mirage story, he took Master made a deal with Cabal to get back to take the Iron History off him to revive his wife. Obviously it was a fail and a lie. And so the Cabal also works for Grandfather Spider. And with Grandfather Spider being in control of the Cabal, basically, he also challenges us to duel. And he brought back 3 of the greatest enemies. Rattlebones, Bort, who was from Krokotopia, who was a Cyclops, which no one remembers. You could have brought back like Meow Yardy or something, but no. And he brought back Jabberwock, who was named Shadowwalk. So Shadowbones, Bort, Shadowmane, or something like that, and Shadowwalks, which was the most intimidating foe you ever faced. And then Grandfather Spider himself, you fight. Now, after you try defeating him, Mallory kind of betrays you for Grandmother Raven, and she tries to kill Grandfather Spider, obviously fails. So he knew that she was the key to get his heart back. And so he takes Mallory away. Mirage, like I said, Mirage is an okay area. You do a lot, like fight Ali Baboon. You had to fight Overlord Xerxes, which is the Scorpion. Xerxes, sorry. To become the Scorpion, and he finds out he's a Scorpion. And so on and so forth. Like, there's so much we just did here, and it felt kind of bland, not gonna lie. But overall, it was an okay area. Like I said, it's better than Azteca at least. Moving on to the next world. Now this is where Star Trek all started, basically. So we have Captain Pork, Beans, yada yada, Spark, and of course Khan, in Empyrea, the first world basically ever made, with of course Bartleby, Grandmother Raven, and Grandfather Spider. Now it is a pretty sad place because you only get aerial shores in the jungle, but then you go to different areas such as Xanadu. You also go to the outer and inner Anthenor, Husk, Chaos Jungle, yada yada. Along the way, you try to stop Grandfather Spider from trying to release his heart, but at the same time stop Grandmother Raven's goons from causing chaos and problems. It's such a conflict because you can't choose sides between light and dark anymore when you are the light and dark itself. And also you'll also become the paradox. The Bartleby Scion, who can stop, well, the most powerful, the Ether Titan, who is Storm. So overall, Empyrea felt like a kind of cliche way to end Arc 3, because in the end, it felt like Grandfather Spider felt the heart to forgive Grandmother Raven and have this love story, like a bitter end. And of course, Meloria and the Bat were teammates and friends all along. But yeah, it just felt weird. So, but like I said, Empyrea is not a bad world. It just felt cliche ending. Moving on to the next world. Arc 4 really hit different with this one. Karamelle, the candy world, it felt like an amazing place to be at until you realize things go sour. And, well, that's what really happened. Also, that's when you also try to make peace with the Cabal, and the old one basically got captured by the Cavities. And yeah, you also get turned on by all the Cabal getting accused of for it. So along the way, not only do you have to fight the Cabals yet again because you're accused of something false, but you also have to find out why everything's going sour. Turns out Grand Nana is the reason behind it, of course. And she's causing all these problems with the Gobblers just sitting there doing nothing, sweating, and making all these gummies sour. So basically making terrible marketing. In the end, you guys fixed it. Everything was fixed, and it made a better area. Now, also the one thing I want to mention with this world is that they also started making side bosses, besides Empyrea, side bosses impossible to do alone. So, both Empyrea and Karamelle were the very first worlds for that. I mean, somewhat Mirage too, but they make it impossible and very hard to do. And I'll tell you why here shortly. This was also the first stream I've ever done on my channel, online, to 100% it. But yeah, overall, I like this world. But there was a better world than this I liked. Now, I didn't really talk about Malworth. He was also part of the Cabal as well, trying to make peace as well. But he also knew about something about the old one in his assignments. What he didn't know was the old one wanted to come back here, to Lemuria. That's where we met Nothing. The Nothing wanted to talk to us and communicate about Lemuria. And while we unlocked it from that one door we saw earlier, we revived Lemuria and its mana. And to start off with, we got lemurs. Not only that, but there's also, well, besides Quartermain as well, we also have other heroes as well. Buck, Dog Tracy, The Shadow, Bronze Duck, Mandar. I'm trying to think of the other one. Solomon Crane, and there was, I believe, one more. I can't remember. Oh, the Bandom. Yeah, those are the heroes that you meet along the way, and I love this. Like, this was also one of the longest streams I've done by far. While the other one was about 14 hours. Well, no, Karamelle was 12 hours. This one was 16 hours. That's because one of the bosses is literally a randomized battle. So it either can help you or screw you over. That's the writer, for everyone who doesn't know. And then they also did a thing where only specific side bosses have a specific drop, like boots and such. So they made it literally impossible to actually do unless you did a side quest. One of them is Power Draconian. And Power Draconian requires to use weaker spells to defeat him. Which, by the way, at the time, when I did 16-hour stream, I was exhausted, so I did not know. I just wanted to get it done. Also, while we're here, these are different versions of Zeke and Eloise. Because this one wants to look for flowers, this one wants to look for other things. So like the the Z blimps or whatever it was. So it was kind of cool reverse action for a reason. So that was cool overall. And you know what? Lemuria was just a great way to learn more about Dasein. Speaking of Dasein, let's go to his world. Dasein's world, Novus. Novus was a really messed up world. There was an ice world. There was a Monquistan camp. There was Puerto Novo, New Victoria, La Ville Rose, and Stone of Heaven. All those levels were so weird for me. And again, like I told you before, the side bosses were horrible in this one. One being the Abyss. How do you kill the Abyss? You have to heal it when it controls you. That's the messed up part. And it took us nearly 3 hours to complete. But let's talk about the main quest. You're working with Design, basically the god of this world. And everyone wants powers for themselves and wants control of things. And they're basically using Design. And of course, Maxine is one of them. And one of the plot twists ever was Maxine's minion, who became the Manticore. He literally abuses Design's power with it as well. And he literally was the one who made the bear with skinny legs and the Manticore's madness, which is the monster. So overall, this was one of the toughest, kind of the toughest worlds out there. And one where we learned more about Design and how the nothing is not everything. So overall, this world felt a lot of betrayal and power consumption. And it felt like a real reason to try and fix everything with the nothing, which we'll try doing in Walru. So thank you all so much for watching this video. Thank you, King Zal, for 15 years. You know what you guys have been doing, you've been doing a lot of hard work. I mean, some things you may messed up on, and that's a lot of companies, but I have to give you respect for keep going from ever since 2008. I really thought by like 2016, this would be shut down. I would never expect in 2023, nearly 2024, this would still continue on. Not like Club Penguin or something like that, you know? It's amazing how far you guys went. Now, there's going to be a lot of haters out there saying, oh, King Zal went downhill. And, you know, there were some bad worlds, but not all of them are bad. You put effort into this. That's what matters most. So really, thank you, King Zal, for 15 years. Thank you, everyone, for watching this video. Like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye for now.